So we're going to jump into how we can describe quantitative data. When I've heard you guys use the word distribution a lot in class when describing the shape or maybe the spread, but it's everything all together. Every way we can describe what we're seeing, that is our data's distribution. But there's four main areas we want to remember. The three main categories that we use are shape, center, and spread. But you know how much we like acronyms in any AP course. So I'm going to add an extra one here, and I'm going to put in outliers. And then we create a great acronym that in AP statistics, we say, don't forget about your socks. So shape, outlier, center, and spread. But just remember, these three are the most important, and we'll get to outliers in just a moment. We're going to start with shape, and we've got this great little chart here that we're going to draw the main kinds of shapes we're looking for in our distribution, in our data. I think the first three here you are pretty familiar with. So symmetric, it's where it can be what we could sometimes call roughly symmetric. One misinterpretation is that one half has to look exactly like the other half, and this is not true. As long as we can see that for the most part it's the same shape-wise on both sides with no extreme values on either. This is something we'd consider symmetric. We could even add another small thing, and this would still be considered a symmetric distribution. Most of you are already familiar with skewed graphs. So we've got skewed right and skewed left here. Now, please don't forget that skew is the direction it falls. So if we go from the top, it's also sometimes we call that the tail. So if we think about this as it tails off to the right or to the left, that gives you the direction of your skew. And the next one is what we call unimodal. So we're going to look for what is modality, or how many areas of information do we have. So a unimodal, una being the root word, is one. If you have one clear peak, now don't overthink this. I have a lot of students think that because there's this dip here that makes two peaks, it's not a huge dip nor gap, so this would still be considered one mode, which is why I drew this one, because that one is often misunderstood. Bimodal is when there are two very distinct, separate areas of information. So this one is definitely bimodal. If we have anything more than two, we would call that multimodal. So it's una, bi, and then we just say multi. We're not going to say trimodal or quadmodal. Anything more than two, just multimodal. And finally, we have uniform, where it's just really, even though it may not be perfectly flat at the top, we really can't say that there's a clear peak or hill or shape to it. For measures of center, we have either the median or the mean. So we've got one of those two. And I mentioned in class that I was going to tell you when you use each. And median you only use in one case. It's when it's skewed. So if you have a skewed graph, so when it's skewed, you're going to use the median, and we're going to talk about and do an activity to see why you use the median, but just trust me, if your graph is skewed, you're going to use the median. For any other kind of graph, whether it doesn't matter if it's the weirdest shape you've ever seen, you're going to use the mean. So just in skewed graphs, it's very important that you use the median. We have two measures of spread, either the interquartile range, the IQR, or the standard deviation. We can also just use the range, which is the min minus the max if we don't know, the max minus the min if we don't know a lot about our data. But when we do know more about our data, we use these two measurements. And once again, the IQR is only used for skewed data. That's when we need to know how to calculate it, but it's really used for that skewed data because it's based around the median, whereas standard deviation is based around the mean. All right, let's use our socks and describe this dot plot. There's a couple things I want you to keep in mind here. If you're given a graph, now we're also given the data here, but if we're given a graph, keep your description super simple. KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it super simple. If you're only given data, then we have to actually do some calculations. But all I want to do is just look at this graph. So I just want to look at this and describe it. So let's do that. Starting with shape, I would say this is roughly symmetric. It's not perfectly symmetric, but I wouldn't say that there's any extremes on each side. And I would definitely say that it's also unimodal. It's got this nice peak and then it runs off. So that's what I'm going to say. Roughly symmetric and unimodal. Let's get into the center next. So we would use the mean on this one. And there's two ways you can do this. I could literally say the mean is about, and if I just look at this, I can tell it's somewhere in here. So I'm going to say it's about 330. Now, I actually calculated this. This is so easy to do when it's symmetric like this. I actually calculated it, and let's see how close I am. It's 328.5 or 0.75, excuse me. So that is the real answer for the mean there. So my approximation was good enough if I'm keeping this super simple. And we'll talk about how to use your instincts and kind of figure out where that is a little bit more with a lot of practice. Spread's a little bit trickier here without actually calculating the standard deviation. We're just going to talk about the range. So the range is the maximum, which is 380, minus the minimum, which is 260. So that's 200 calories. Anytime you give a measurement, you should give the unit so that we have some context here. I would say most, okay, maybe I would talk about most calories are near the center. And since it's near the center, that means it's going to have a smaller standard deviation. You could mention that. Outliers, you don't need to do any calculation. You just want to look to see if there's any point that looks extremely further away than the other points. And this 260, to cover my bases, I'm going to say 260 calories appear to be an outlier. By saying appear and not saying for sure, you won't get docked. Appears to be an outlier. So you could also say maybe an outlier. That way you've shown that you've thought about it, you've made a decision, a determination, but you didn't actually do the calculation to find out if it's an outlier at all or not. When given a graph, this is all you need to do for the AP exam. One thing I really haven't done right now is stress the using it in context, talking about the pizzas, but covering the calories there, giving the unit, is definitely important to do. Let's go ahead and compare two distributions. And the most important thing to remember is you want to use comparative words. Things like more than, less than, higher than, about the same. Make sure that you're actually comparing your distributions and not just making a list of two descriptions. So combined with our socks, we're going to look at these two distributions of the energy costs of top versus bottom freezers. So the top dot plot, of course, is the bottom freezers, and the top freezers are the bottom dot plot. That seems counterintuitive. Okay, let's go ahead and do a comparison. Take a look at both of them and decide what is it about their shapes that are either the same or different. And remember, shapes include symmetric, skewed, uniform, unimodal, bimodal, multimodal. Comparing the two shapes isn't terribly helpful for these two distributions. The bottom freezers has a strong unimodal peak. We can see that peak right here. It comes up, comes back down. This one, you could say it's unimodal, but I'm feeling like it's more uniform. Our options are either 1, 2, or 3 plot dots each time. You could even say, it's multimodal. It's just really got no shape, maybe symmetric. I don't know. There's not a lot to either one of these. I don't think the shape is really what's going to give us the most information here. So if we talk about the centers, we want to talk about the bottom freezers have an average or mean cost around $70 per year, while the top freezers are centered much lower, around $56 per year. So notice I didn't actually do any calculations, just looking at, just stating what I see about where the centers are each of these graphs. So already I can make some determination about the top freezers having a lower cost overall than the bottom freezers. And next we'll talk about their spreads, which we're really going to get a lot of information here. All right, there's a lot of information in spread, particularly talking about how we can compare these two. The bottom freezers vary. This is a really important word to use, vary, when we're talking about spread. So the more spread out things are, the more varied the information, the distribution is. Vary in energy costs much more than the top freezers. Bottom freezers range is around 110. Now, how did I come up with that number? I just estimated. I said, okay, well, it looks like these are each separated by about $14. So I just went and said, okay, that's 150. And I made this one, I think, 40. Actually, probably I should have only made it maybe 50. But I said 40. So 150 minus 40 ends up being $110. So it's a total estimate. So make sure you use words around, about. I think I have an about in here. I did the same thing for the top freezers. I said this was about 65, and if I'm making that 40, then my number is $25. But the kicker here is most bottom freezer costs, freezers, I should forget the S there, freezers cost more to run than top freezers. So let's take a look at this. If I look right here, all of these freezers are costing more to run. So all of those are costing more to run than those top freezers. So maybe I shouldn't have said most. I just changed that to half of the bottom freezers cost more to run than the top freezers. I probably should have said about half. And then finally, we've got those outliers. So not in order. I like to talk about the outliers at the end here. So we've got these two clear outliers. We don't really need to use comparative words here. So what happens here is that when you have these outliers that are so extreme, it's going to take our mean and pull it towards them. So honestly, median would be a better measure of the actual average here, which is why I didn't pick the dead center. I picked this more as my center. So when looking for a center, if you have extreme outliers, just kind of ignore them. Just cover them up, pretend that they're not there, and use the center of the rest of the values for your approximation. And this one, I just mentioned that the top freezers have no outliers. So there's our comparison. It's a lot of words, a lot of talking. So I apologize for the length here, but look at a lot of examples in your textbook to get a good idea of how to write these out.